Hey everybody, welcome back to the Inner Revolution podcast, where we explore the inner landscape, what's possible when we turn toward our struggles, step into our values, and live the life we really want while feeling good rather than just trying to feel good, right? Like we've talked about. We'll talk more about that today. But I'm your host, Enoch Fossum. I'm a marriage and family therapist intern with an emphasis or studying in addiction. And today we're diving into the sixth pivot of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, which is committed action. We're also going to look at how committed action ties together all six pivots into one cohesive, powerful tool for transformation. It's not just shenanigans we talk about, it's things that can actually change your life. So you may have heard about ACT's 6 core processes. That was a joke. I'm hoping you have. Because this is the 6th episode of this entire series that we've been doing. So go back and listen to the other 5 and you'll be up to speed here with committed action. So often those tools are taught individually, right? Like per episode, like we have been doing. And they're not talked about as much together and how they work as a dynamic system. So to help people not just survive, we're going to talk about how they all work together so we can thrive. You like that? So today I'm going to walk you through what committed action is, why it matters, how it ties to the other 5 pivots together, and then I'm going to share a story of someone who put them all into motion, and we'll also look at some of the research about ACT's efficacy in the domain of pornography use, specifically, shocker, to show how this isn't just theory, but it works. It really does, and it can change your life if you actually put it into action, pun intended. So grab your headphones, grab a notebook if you're driving, focus on the road. You can always rewind. So what is committed action? Is it just deciding to do something and going and doing it? Boom, we're done. Kind of. Committed action is the stage of ACT where values actually meet behavior. It's not just about values, right? It's about doing something about them. According to a couple ACT guides, committed action encourages the development of larger and larger patterns of effective action linked to chosen values. So in short, you choose your direction or your values, and you come into connection with your inner experience via acceptance, diffusion, being present, self as context, and then you act in service of what actually matters. In a lot of therapies, action might mean things like challenging thoughts, eliminating symptoms, or avoiding pain. In ACT, the focus shifts. It's not about feeling good or avoiding all discomfort, right? It's about behaving in ways that align with your values, even when the discomfort shows up. And that's the brilliance of committed action. That's the beauty of it. So psychologically, committed action contributes to what ACT calls psychological flexibility, right? That's the entire goal of ACT, is to achieve this psychological flexibility rather than being rigid in the way that we think, therefore changing the way that we behave. And if we are psychologically rigid, we'll behave more rigidly and have a hard time adapting to what life throws at us. So think of it this way: acceptance, or all of these together, psychological flexibility, is acceptance, which gives you room to feel the experience. You have diffusion, which helps you detach from the literal grip of your thoughts. Being present brings you into the here and now. The self as context lets you see yourself as the observing self, not just the content of your overall experience. Values tell you why you're here, what you stand for, what do you want, who are you? And committed action asks, what are you going to do about it? You have all these things, now what? So when we put all of those together, you have a complete living system, not just managing life, but you're actually engaging fully in it. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. So now let's talk about why committed action actually matters, especially in the feeling good sense, instead of just feeling good paradigm. One of the phrases I love is, we want to live the life we've always dreamed of while feeling good, instead of just feeling good. It's really hard to say that over video, but the good is all capitalized. That's what we're trying to focus on in the world, and that's not really super helpful. So what's the difference? Feeling good, all caps good, suggests a kind of other state, right? So when I have no problems, when I feel perfect, when everything is under control, I feel good. But feeling good, feeling all caps, suggests more resilience, more flexibility. I have ups and downs. I can open up to my experiences, and I still align with what matters. Does that mean you'll never feel good when feeling good? Absolutely not. You still can, and you will. But this focus on feeling good tends to be a little too unhelpful. So committed action is the portal to this second path. Without it, you can have values, mindfulness, acceptance, but still remain stuck, passive, or reactive. Action is what actually brings the other processes into motion. It's what takes the mental, emotional work and turns it into our lived behavior. It turns you into the person that you've always wanted to be. So here's some reasons why committed action is crucial in all of this. First, it counters avoidance and inertia. Many people suffer by trying to actually escape inner experience, like uncomfortable thoughts, urges, and shame, especially when it comes to pornography addiction. But ACT teaches, open up and move toward. But you still need to move, right? So values alone can feel nice, but they're never, if they're never enacted, if you don't act upon them, then they just stay abstract. They're just something cool to think about every now and again. Second, it integrates internal and external worlds. So your internal world, like your thoughts, feelings, and memories, they matter. And so does your external world, relationships, work, service. Committed action is going to bring them into one. Third, it creates momentum and feedback. When you act in line with your values, you get results. Small wins, shifts in identity, reinforcing loops that help you actually feel capable and resilient. Fourth, it supports living while feeling good because you're acting with experience. You're not just waiting until it disappears. The pain or discomfort doesn't vanish, but you don't let it stop you. You don't let it run your world. And that's the heart of psychological flexibility. In the context of shame, addiction, or compulsive behavior like problematic pornography use, committed action is what differentiates someone who only talks about change from someone who actually lives it and starts to see those differences in their life. So let's tell a little story. I'll call our main guy Alex, okay? So here's a little background of Alex. Alex is a 32-year-old male. He's successful in his career. He has a committed partner, and he loves his job. But behind the scenes, he's been struggling with excessive pornography use for years. Over time, he's felt isolation, shame, repetitive patterns of binging followed by guilt. And he's tried to quit these outbursts, right? These aren't things that he wants, but the urges always come back. He feels stuck. He thinks, I know it's a problem. I know I should stop. I feel miserable when I binge, but I still do it. One day, Alex goes to therapy. Hey, rock on. And the therapist talks about ACT with Alex. So over the course of weeks, Alex walks through the 6 pivots, like we just did over the past 6 weeks. And here's how it actually looked for him in action. Pivot 1, acceptance. So Alex begins by noticing his urges and shame without battling them constantly. He practices and says things like, here's the urge, here's the shame, or I'm aware of it. And he stops trying to suppress or fight the feelings. He simply steps into contact with them. We're not trying to avoid them or fight them. Pivot 2, cognitive diffusion. And remember, these aren't really in any particular order. You genuinely can do them in any order that works best for you. These are just what we talk about in ACT in the specific order. So pivot 2, the cognitive diffusion. notices stories that he tells himself, like, I'm weak, or I'll never change, I'm broken. And the therapist uses metaphors, right, like the leaves on a stream or the memories on a cloud, to help Alex see thoughts as passing events. They're not facts. And he starts saying things like, I'm having the thought that I'm weak, instead of I am weak. The third pivot, being present, is contacting the present moment. Alex learns mindfulness techniques like breathing, body checking, noticing internal and external cues. When the urge arises, instead of immediately reacting, he brings attention to what is here and now. He thinks, what am I feeling? What am I sensing? Where is the urge in my body? What story don't I have to believe right now? Pivot 4 is the self as context. Alex begins to experience a part of himself that observes this interplay of urges, thoughts, and feelings because he is not them. And he shifts from he is his urges to he has urges, or he notices his urges. And that distinction opens up space. It creates a buffer. And he might still feel shame, but he also has a self that is larger than shame, that he can access at any point. Pivot 5, values. Alex sits with one question. What kind of man do I want to be? Or what kind of partner? What kind of father? I know it's more than one question. Bear with me. And he writes down his values. His values are integrity, connection, courage, intimacy. He asks, if I were to live according to these values, what behaviors would show up? He commits to being a partner who is present, a man who is honest, a man who chooses connection over avoidance. Pivot 6, committed action. So here's where the rubber actually meets the road, right? Alex, with his therapist, develops a plan of behavior change. He chooses a specific action that's aligned with one of his values. So, for example, when the urge arises, he will pause for 60 seconds and do a values check. He'll breathe and label the urge. He'll redirect to connection with his partner or to a meaningful activity like going for a walk or calling a friend. He sets a longer-term goal to build a weekly connectivity time with his partner. So no screens for 1 hour. And that shares vulnerability. And he also joins a mindfulness group once a week. He tracks his triggers and responses in a journal. He keeps going even when it's uncomfortable. On days when the urges arise, he still shows up. He says, yes, there's the urge, man. There it is. And I'm going to act with this value anyway. I'm not going to let the urge stop me. Over time, and that's the key word, time, Alex notices things start to change. He still experiences urges, but he still feels shame, right? He feels it, but the size of shame doesn't dominate him. And the urges no longer force his action. He chooses his values over the automatic script that he's been stuck in for years and years. He experiences moments of connection with his partner he had neglected too over the years. And he begins to feel alive in new ways. He's living, not just resisting. Now, here's why the 6 pivots together actually made a difference. First, if Alex only had done values work, let's say, but he ignored acceptance, diffusion, present moment work, he might have set goals and then just crashed when urges smacked him upside the head. If he had only done mindfulness and acceptance, but no values or action, he might have felt calmer, right? But still drifted or stayed inert, still stayed stuck in that cycle. It's really the integration of all 6 of these pivots, accepting what is, seeing the thought as stories, right? It's not reality. And being here and now, actually grounding yourself to the reality, knowing that self that observes and then clarifying your values and taking committed actions. That is what actually empowered him. So by connecting to the internal work with his external behavior, Alex moved from "I wish I could" to "here I go," right? And that story, the initial story of Alex being stuck in the cycle, might sound really familiar. That might be you. But there is hope. There is so much hope for you, and there's so much change that can happen for you today. But remember, it takes time, and that's okay. Now let's move to some research. I promised some evidence, so here's some encouraging data for ACT in the domain of problematic pornography use, or PPU in this context. So there was one key randomized control trial that compared a 12-session individual ACT protocol for PPU versus a waitlist control, okay, in 28 adult males. The ACT group saw a 93% reduction in pornography viewing at post-treatment compared to 21% in the control group. And at a 3-month follow-up, the reduction was about still 86%, so down from 93 to 86%. So there was still a large part of the group that still maintained sobriety at that point, which is pretty sweet. Another study found an 85% reduction in viewing pornography maintained at a 3-month follow-up, which went to 83%. So it only dropped 2% over the course of the 3 months there. A little systemic review of 20 studies with about 2,000 participants found that psychotherapy, including acceptance and commitment therapy, produced large effects on the PPU frequency and the duration, and supports use of ACT for PPU. So importantly, ACT's theoretical grounding emphasizes psychological flexibility, right, which is believed to underlie problematic behaviors, including compulsive pornography use. In other words, these are not just isolated anecdotes, right? The evidence suggests ACT helps reduce problematic pornography use significantly, and importantly, the reduction appears to be maintained over time, at least short-term follow-ups over the course of 3 months. I'm sure as the further out you go, it will continue to drop to a certain extent. But at least an initial 3 months is great to get you to a point to continue to practice those ACT pivots, right? So this supports treatment efforts focused on values, mindfulness, acceptance, diffusion, and committed action rather than only symptom suppression. In the language of our 6 pivots, when individuals facing pornography-related problems engage all 6 processes, including committed action, they are well positioned for change. So let's get practical. If you're someone who's who is struggling with pornography addiction or just is looking to grow from acceptance and commitment therapy, here's a roadmap to apply committed action in the broader ACT system. So first, step A, clarify your values. What matters most to you? So ask things like, when I'm 80 years old, looking back, what do I want to have stood for? You want to identify domains, or like things like relationships, work, community, growth, spirituality, and pick 2 or 3 concrete values like authenticity, connection, courage, or service, and translate those values into behavior. Ask questions like, what kind of partner, father, therapist would that value look like day to day, right? Step 2 is to map current behavior and barriers. So notice behaviors that aren't aligned with your values, like binging pornography, or isolating yourself, or being stuck in this shame cycle. Identify triggers, things like your urges, internal reactions, things like after stress at work, or I sit on my computer, I feel lonely, whatever it is. Use the first 4 pivots to build the internal capacity to actually see, feel, and detach, and present moment orient, right? Come to the here and now, realizing that your thoughts aren't reality. You don't have to believe them. They don't always tell the truth. Step 3 is to design committed actions. So align your values with your behaviors. Brainstorm some ideas, some short, medium, and long-term behavioral goals For example, like short term, when I notice the urge, I'll do a 3-minute breathing exercise and call a supportive friend. An example for a medium goal would be I'll schedule a weekly tech-free evening with my partner. And something like a long-term goal would look like I'll lead a peer group where I help others struggling with pornography, and being able to turn from more of a recipient to a contributor. And make sure your actions are specific, concrete, measurable, realistic, right? Use the SMART acronym, which you know. And I mean, have we done a podcast episode on this? I don't know. Maybe we will. SMART goals, kind of fun. But emphasize doing even when the feelings like shame, urge, discomfort show up. That's the key. Step 4, use mindfulness. Things like diffusion, self as context, etc., right? Use those pivots to support your action. For example, like acceptance. Practice sitting with the urge and the shame rather than just fighting or avoiding them. It's okay to sit with them for a minute. They're not bad. You're not a bad person for having those. And then diffuse from them. When the thought, I'm a failure, arises, label it. Oh, okay, that's a thought that I'm having. And then anchor yourself to the present moment. Use anchor exercises like breathing, body scan to orient to the here and to the now. And then go into the self as context. Notice the I am more than my urges, and I am the one noticing them. After you do all this, you then want to review, refine, and persist. Track your progress. What actions were taken? What internal experiences emerged? What felt aligned? What didn't? And revisit your values if needed. Are they still resonant? Is that still a value that you want? As you go through all of this, celebrate the small wins. Notice changes, not just in behavior, but in internal responses. Less reactivity, more choice, more alignment with your values and what you actually want to do, who you want to be. And then just embrace the loop of committed action. It's not a one and done type deal. It's a looping process. It's a cycle. You act, you notice what happens, you refine your internal work, like acceptance, diffusion, mindfulness, and you refresh your values, right? Pull up on the screen, refresh. You act again, and over time, the system's going to gain momentum. It's going to become second nature to you. So let's tie this all back to our opening vision, right? Living the life you've always dreamed while feeling good instead of just feeling good. So what does that look like? Your dream life, not necessarily perfect, but one where you're aligned with what matters to you. You're connected, you're contributing, you're alive, you're feeling good. That's not just the absence of all pain or urges or shame, but it's the presence of choice, the presence of fullness, the presence of embodiment, being the here and now. Rather than feeling good, which implies only when things are perfect will I feel good. That's fragile, and that's not what we want. That's not a way to live, honestly. The ACT path accepts that bad days will come, but you still act, you still value, you still live. And when you engage in all 6 pivots, you accept the discomfort, you notice thoughts and urges, you stay present, you realize you are more than your struggle. You clarify your values and you commit to those. You commit to acting upon them. Those actions build your identity. And you begin to see yourself not as someone trying to fix pornography use, but as someone living with integrity, with connection and purpose. And yes, sometimes urges and shame, but you're not defined by that. Trying to get rid of the urges and the shame, that's not the way to go about it. If those come up, that's okay. Invite them to come along for the ride, man, as you go ahead and make a value-based action to become the person you want. In our story, Alex didn't wait until he felt perfect to act, right? He used his internal capacity plus external action to build a meaningful life. And as the research backs it, ACT plus committed action leads to substantial reductions in problematic behavior like pornography use and an increase in the quality of life. So a couple things before we close. Remind yourself, change doesn't always feel good in the fun sense, right? But it builds goodness in the deeper sense. It builds meaning, alignment, and connection. And when urges or setbacks happen, they're not a failure. You're not a failure. They are opportunities to apply acceptance, to apply committed action again and again and again. The path is not just this straight linear way, right? It's up and down. And as long as the overall trajectory is upward, then we're good. But you're going to have some down moments, and that's okay. Committed action is more than just doing things. It's living values in action, supported by internal work, like the other 5 pivots, right? And when done together, you're not just coping, you're thriving. You're turning psychological flexibility into a life of meaningful behavior. And if you take one thing from today, choose a small action this week that aligns with a value you care about. Notice what is happening inside when you commit. Use the internal tools to sit with discomfort. Let the action carry you forward. You guys, thanks for joining this podcast. Thanks for joining this episode, this whole series, this acceptance and commitment therapy. Okay, that's it. We're done with the pivots. Obviously, we're going to integrate them in future episodes and things like that. And so use this as a base knowledge for future episodes on pornography addiction and just on becoming the person that you've always wanted to be. Think about different ways and ask yourself, how can I commit to the now, to an action that brings me closer to my values? So until next time, stay present, stay open, stay committed. Your inner revolution is waiting, baby. And this is what it takes. It takes an inner revolution to become the person that you want to be. But the good thing about this is that you can, and that it's possible. Peace out.